Nitin Rakesh is Chief Executive Officer and Managing Director of Mphesis. He joined the company as its CEO and Director in January 2017. Prior to joining Mphesis, he was CEO and President of Syntel. He has deep domain expertise in banking, financial services, and insurance verticals. Nitin Rakesh in conversation with Lalit K. Jha for New India Abroad.
So can you tell me about Mphesis and also how Indian tech companies are expanding in the US? How do you see that?
Let me start with the company. So we are at this stage almost 25 years into existence as a business. Late 90s it was started. The two founders came from Citibank, built a pretty credible brand and business around tech and operations, especially in banking in the US. So that was kind of our core market and still is our core market. So a lot of custom applications work, building platforms, helping banks adopt new systems, customer facing applications, experience. In between, we went through some major shareholder changes over the last 15 years or so, starting with 2006-7 EDS acquired the company, but we were a public company already, so we stayed public while EDS owned majority. Then EDS got acquired by HP, so we became a Hewlett Packard company for almost 8 years. But in 2016, the last time we had a change in control, is when Blackstone acquired the 60% stake from HP, and the rest of it was public already. So that was kind of the, in a way, the rebirth of the company as an independent brand outside of big tech. So for the last 6 years, we've really been reestablishing the business as an independent business. We are still publicly traded. Blackstone and some of the large sovereign investors own majority. So between Blackstone, Abu Dhabi Investment Authority, GIC of Singapore, and University of California Endowment Fund, they are the four big owners that control between them about 56%, and the rest of the company is publicly owned, listed in India on NSE and BSE. Market cap is in about $5.5 billion range. The business has done well last 5 years. We've doubled the company actually in 5 years. So we are roughly 1.8 billion in revenue right now, about 38,000 employees. The US is still the home market. US banking is still the primary business. So 60% of the revenue is US banking and insurance. And the rest of the business is split into other industries such as high tech, logistics and travel, a little bit of healthcare. And of course, there is a small emerging, line coming out of airlines and so on that sits in the travel side. 70% of the headcount is based in India, right? So we are obviously big, in India when it comes to total employee base. Bangalore, Pune, and Chennai are the three big locations in India. And that's a little bit of the profile of the business. A lot of work is being done, of course, in the whole migration to cloud area right now for the last 2-3 years. That's become the big theme. Our growth actually accelerated during COVID because the industry was also a beneficiary, but more importantly, we built a whole series of capabilities that clients are looking for when it comes to actually modernizing their infrastructure and application estate. We have a pretty strong, credible footprint in areas like the whole cloud and data, customer experience, cybersecurity, application modernization, new application development, and so on. So I think that's a quick profile of the business. You asked me about the industry and how we're doing. I think we had 2 years of very, very strong growth in FY21 and FY22. This year, obviously, we're all also dealing with some of the uncertainties that are being caused by the economic environment, but still, it's a pretty strong growth environment. Healthy double-digit growth is quite, visible to the industry. If you look at across the spectrum of large companies all the way to us. Obviously, the supply side is pretty constrained because shortage of labor is also very acute in IT. But that is something that we have to solve for every day by reskilling people and bringing people into the workforce at the bottom of the pyramid. And that's kind of basically how we spend our days, thinking about how to help customers and how to find the people.
You talked about the shortage of tech talent in the industry. So how you handling that in addition to the reskilling them?
Yeah, I think there are only 2 or 3 ways to do it. we have to expand the total workforce that is available. That's the only way you can solve the shortage problem. So we've done 2 or 3 things. One, we launched 3 or 4 years ago an internal reskilling platform called Talent Next, where we actually give opportunity to our entire workforce to continue to upskill and cross-skill themselves, right? So if you're a developer and you want to become a cloud engineer, there are certifications and programs you can run through. These are highly digitized programs, mostly available in a hybrid format, but last 2 years it's mostly been virtual format. So that's continues to be one big lever to take existing talent and make sure that you have the right skill set available. Issue is not so much shortage of talent. Issue is shortage of the right skill set in the right area. So there's a skill mismatch also because of pretty strong shift in underlying tech consumption over the last 3-4 years towards digital and cloud. Second thing is globalizing the supply chain, right? Instead of being focused only on US, customers, US talent, and then of course having the large, development centers in India. Over the last 2 years, we've also gone into other markets where the access to talent was earlier was not thought through. For example, we've opened centers in Taiwan, Mexico, even onshore Germany, and recently in Canada, because we now found talent pools that were available to other industries, and we can now actually repurpose that talent towards our business. So I'll give you an example. The latest expansion in Calgary in Canada is where we've set up our new development center, and we are looking towards our first 100 people already on the ground, and then we'll add another 100 over the next 2 months, because Calgary has a rich heritage of oil and gas exploration. A lot of those people are really nothing but data scientists, but they're data scientists attuned towards the oil and gas industry and the province of Alberta and the city of Calgary to actually create a whole new tech reskilling based workforce. Right. So that's one big way you actually bring new people into the workforce. And the third is, you have to, even within India, we have to hire people that are coming out of campuses and actually hire them not just in Bangalore and Pune, but really, open up the tier 2, tier 3 towns. And that's the other thing that we're doing. Even within India, we're actually going a little bit more, it's a very localized talent sourcing strategy as we engage with the new crop of people coming out of engineering schools.
So tell me, the last 2 years and this year, last 2 year was COVID-19, and then now we are fearing economic recession. Inflation is going up high. How all these has impacted Memphis?
One or two direct impacts. Inflation, very much within the inflation line, is what we call wage inflation, right? So that is still running very high. Cost of labor is obviously, increasing faster than our businesses, and that is true for almost every sector, but also true for tech, so tech talent. So I think the ways to mitigate that really is things that I talked about, and we continue to do that. Second is there is always an impact on demand, because higher inflation means people will start cutting back on spend at some level that will hurt overall demand for all products and services, including technology services. We've seen some early signs of that, not very widespread right now, but there are sectors where people are starting to think about, rationalizing the costs of their budgets and reprioritizing them. So we are very focused on making sure that we stay focused on areas where we think the cuts will be minimal, because those are non-discretionary must-to-have services. Right? If you're in the middle of a transformation project and you want to go from having 25 data centers to 2, you're not going to cut that, because that actually helps you with the same initiative. So I think it's so on a daily basis, that conversation happens with every account team, every customer. And I think we worse than being in a recession is being in the zone of uncertainty, because nobody really has a clear idea of whether you're supposed to be, whether are we going to get through this without a recession, or are we going to actually see a major recession. So I think at this point, we are still in the zone of uncertainty from an economic standpoint, and that obviously creates a level of dysfunction. Decisions get delayed, customers start waiting and watching. So I think that's a little bit of that is going on right now.
I wanted to ask you about how are the Indian tech companies doing in the US, and also their expansion plans, how they're navigating themselves through.
Yeah, I think it's pretty similar, Lilith, to be honest, because of course, everybody has a slightly different flavor of the portfolio that they run. Many of them have actually opened local centers in onshore locations. They've gone. Think of this as like rural shoring within the US, creating nearshore capabilities in towns that are like I think another company in our industry opened a pretty large center in Indianapolis 2 years ago because they think they can create a 2,000, 3,000 seat capability there. We opened one in Dallas, and then of course in Canada. So I think it's the ability to wherever you will find some talent, and of course that has become a little bit less, I would say, of a bottleneck, because with this hybrid remote model, you can actually hire somebody who sits in Hawaii and works for you, because they're logging those 8-10 hours a day from wherever they are. So in a way, that the globalization of talent has actually happened to the next level. Now we'll see where it settles down, but I think that's become that's a pretty big way to control lack of supply in market. Like if earlier you're only hiring in the New York region, now you can actually hire the same talent to work from Texas or Florida. So I think there's a little bit of that experimentation going on right now.
So can you give us a sense of how the new taxation system, there's a global common taxation of 15%, then US has come out with, Biden administration come out with new taxation policies for the big companies. India too has come out with. How is this impacting the IT companies in general?
There is actually little direct impact of that on us, because we are already paying much higher taxes than the MAT that has been put together, right? On an average, our industry pays tax in the 25-26% tax rate, right, across our whole business. And whether contracts are done in the US or done in India, we are actually paying more tax than the MAT. So it doesn't really impact us.
Any policy recommendations to the both governments, Indian government and the US government, to make your things much easier, smoother, life easier?
There are things around data privacy in India that makes life easier for our customers. So we are, as an industry, we have a stake in the ground with that provision, because we want to make sure that our customers don't have problem in getting work delivered from anywhere. And at the same time, they can also have a local business in India. The other piece that always continues to be in discussion is the ability for our people to move across borders, right? So the whole immigration piece is always a big one for us, because 2/3 of H1 visas go to our industry, and in that the ability to bring people over and migrate and rotate them across countries is an important one for us. And I think other than that, just making sure that we don't get stuck in unwanted consequences of some regulation is we keep our eyes and ears closed. I think it's a lot calmer now than it was with the previous administration, because there were lots and lots of proposals with the previous administration where there were some collateral damages that were kind of coming our way, whether it was to do with immigration or it was to do with for example, the whole BEAT tax was a pretty, that impacted us more than minimum tax. If you remember, in 2018, there was a BEAT tax introduced. If you're outsourcing work, the tax rate is different. But again, the industry has innovated around it, and we found a way to work with it. But I think those are the 2 or 3 main topics that we continue to focus on with DC.
Tell me on the H1B and the free flow of the much better movement of talent across the border between US and India, how that can be improved upon by the US government. What is your recommendation for that?
I think at this point in time, just the processing delays are pretty large, right? So we continue to focus on ways to help work with the consulates to smoothen, right? If people are ready with approvals, but they don't have visa stamped, because the timelines required 6 months, 8 months wait, 9 month wait. I'm talking about professional visas. I'm not talking about B1, B2. B1, B2 is a 2-year wait. So we are having to kind of obviously lean on Zoom and Teams a lot more. But in a services business, it is important for us to actually have the ability to have people in the same room with the customer. So I think that those are things that we made a lot of representations, and I think things improved on one side, but didn't really improve on the B1 B2 side. That's a big issue. Although that issue is not just with the US; it's the same issue with Canada we are facing in a big way. Same issue with the UK we are facing in a big way.
Thank you, Nitin. Thanks.
This was Nitin Rakesh, CEO and MD, Mphesis, in conversation with Lalit Kejha for the New India Abroad.